Welcome to A Novel Affair.
The bookish podcast where we kiss and tell about our torrid affairs with fictional characters.
So grab a drink and get ready for some pure, unadulterated fun.
And today we are covering Lights Out by Navessa Allen. And I would assume you would have to not have a TikTok account to have not heard of this book.
If you're on Book Talk or Mask Talk, you likely know of this book.
Indeed. Why don't you tell us all about Mask Talk, Destiny? You are the resident Mask Talk expert.
Listen, I don't know why you feel the need to call me out like that. So rude. So rude. But while I'm here, this book.
So I thought of you often whenever reading this book. I feel like this book was written for you, for sure.
This is right up my alley. Pretty much all of it. Just right up my alley. And not gonna lie, after the torment of the Lady Blue Balls that is Crescent City, this book was needed. At least for me.
Understood. That's totally understood.
So, to start, I'm just gonna go ahead and list this dining menu of trigger warnings because it's longer than a CVS receipt.
It's quite a list.
And I didn't even include every last one of them. There were a couple that I just left out because it's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we have alcohol consumption, mentions of off-page grape, remove the G, child abuse, remembered, blood and gore in a hospital setting, discussions of mental health, mentions of serial killers and their crimes, limited description of a mass shooting, stalking, which, why else are we reading this book? Home invasion, hidden cameras, unintentional cannibalism, only remembered, death including violence and of a parent, and a car accident, remembered. Now,
Sounds like a
here's
party.
It is a lot. But technically, I'm fairly certain that we've read books with much longer lists for triggers.
So I feel like this list is misleading. I'll be honest. I
Yeah?
I did not I would not consider this book a book I would warn people about before reading. Um I feel like it was like the Kids Bop version of some of the books that I have read at your behest in the past.
So, you know what? I have to agree because throughout this entire book, I'm reading it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's dark. But then I'm like, but it's not that dark.
It's not. I actually think this would be a good book to recommend to somebody who had never read anything dark and didn't know if they were into that or not. This would be a very
Yeah.
good test book to see if this is something that they're into.
It's entry level into the dark romance world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, once you get through the list of the triggers, you then have your kinks or your tropes, whatever you want to call them. So we have breath play, knife play, gunplay, fear play, primal play, mask play, and consensual dubious consent. So, seven? Mm. But there were a couple that were in the book that she did not claim in the beginning, which are praise kinks,
Mm-hmm.
degradation kinks,
Mm-hmm.
and brat kinks.
Yes. Yes.
All
I,
of that, yes.
I we should get into it because so I'm going to go ahead and say out the gate that I really like Allie.
Yes.
I don't always. I have a tendency to get annoyed or frustrated with the female main characters in books. Well, any
Yeah.
character is subject to my annoyance, but she is not any of my comments that I have about this book are not about Allie. I really like Allie. I love that
Same.
she's a nurse. I think that's of all the books that I've read, especially recently, it's I don't know, it just was something different and
Yeah.
I thought it was cool.
I liked her. I liked her as well. I mean, right out the gate, we get a kind of insight to her when because she works in a trauma center and she's looking after this new nurse who comes from like a small town ER and now she's working in a metropolis trauma center and she's like having a mental breakdown and Allie's like consoling her
Mhm.
and it just kind of it gives you a sense of who she is throughout the entirety of the book. And
It was I like the masked man. I like the faceless man. I definitely there's a specific account and I don't know his name, but he was who I envisioned whenever they were talking about his TikTok account. Well, it doesn't say TikTok, but I'm just going to assume that it's a TikTok
we all
account.
know it's TikTok. She's just not using the word TikTok.
And he does not suck to look at, and he's always in a mask. And I think I've sent you one of his videos before, but
To be fair, it's like trying to pick one out of a lineup with us because of the amount of
yeah,
mask talks that we have sent to each other.
that's valid.
Especially on my end. I have a problem.
I
But
wouldn't
it's
call
only a
it a
problem if you make it a
problem.
problem.
Yeah, yeah. Like define problem. So Josh, though,
He's like a golden retriever dark bad boy. Like how does it even work? It works, but like how?
I felt a little bit like when I'm in Josh's point of view, it's not his personality or any of that. I do like his sense of humor. But I kind of did not feel like I was reading a true man's point of view. Josh was a little it took me out of it a little bit because I felt like I was reading a man's point of view written by a woman.
I could see that.
And this is not a commentary on him being insecure or questioning himself or any of that. Obviously, men totally have all
Yeah.
those emotions and they're valid. But there was
His
just
way of thinking.
something about his inner dialogue did not seem different enough from
Hers.
Allie's. And
Yeah.
it could be, for me, I really want my masked man stalker guy to seem more infallible or more in control. I know that there was a lot of humor in some of his, like, not things not going like the way he planned,
Hmm.
but I think it detracted a little bit from how, like, enamored with Josh that I was, if that makes sense.
I can see that. I can see it. There were a few times where, looking back, it does seem a little more of like, this should have been my train of thought versus the train of thought that a man usually has, which, I mean, we
Yeah.
can't put all men in a box, but
No.
we also know that their brains work differently than ours and think differently than ours. It's just the way that it is.
Yes.
But with that being said, I did in fact love that he was golden retriever-esque.
So this book is a standalone, but I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that it says an Into Darkness novel. Are there more books coming out?
It is called Caught Up. This is going to be a trilogy, so there will be another book. The next book is about Junior, Nico's son, her cousin.
Okay. So it's a different story, same world.
Yes. So we're still going to be living in the same area. We'll probably get more of Allie and Josh, but it'll be based around Junior and his female counterpart, whoever that may be.
Interesting.
I don't see anything about the third book. I think this one actually just came out.
That was going to be my next question, if that book was out yet, if we're still waiting on it.
Uh, we are still technically waiting. It comes out June 10th of 2025.
Okay.
So,
Something to look forward
we'll
to.
have to we'll have to come back to it at some point. Did you get any quotes?
I did. Favorite quotes. My first one um, is, I'm just going to read it. And when he smiled and those dimples appeared, it triggered ovulation. You couldn't convince me otherwise. Not after the way I stood there staring at him while my ovaries donned their war paint and started metaphorically chucking eggs at the man. And,
That, yes, that's a good one.
I just got this visual of the ovaries in combat, and I don't know, it just really made me laugh. Um, and
that
her
that's a good one.
her continual reference to her ovaries in reaction to him, it reminded me of the comments that you often see on the thirst traps, for sure.
It's exactly what that is. So, I kind of mentioned this one earlier. It's again, I don't like the bad boy phrase, but
Mm-hmm.
she says, bad boys don't get rewarded, she said. No, damn it, I did not need a brat king on top of my newly awakened praise king. The two were supposed to cancel each other out, not act as amplifiers.
Yes.
Same, bro. Same.
Yes. So I actually really related to the comments that you see on these thirst traps. Something that made me laugh out loud was actually one of the comments. So when he posts the video where he says, like, when basically saying, like, she's mad
She
at
made him
you.
sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite comment is, everybody's freaking out about, oh my gosh, he's married or he's in a relationship or whatever. The comment that says, okay, but how are you going to tell your wife that this video just got me pregnant?
Yep. And I swear to God, that is a real comment I have seen under thirst
Yes,
traps.
yes. And it made me fully laugh out loud. Like, hilarious.
There's another point where Allie had actually said something that I've seen under a lot of thirst traps to him. And she looks at him and she goes, "Smash next."
Yes.
And I was like, "Yep, yep."
Agreed.
So my next quote is, I stabbed the knife down, straight into the corner of her mattress. She clapped her hands over her mouth to muffle her horrified screams. I crooked a finger at her, beckoning her forward. "Come here, Allie," I said, wrapping my other hand around the knife handle so there would be no mistaking my intent. "I want to watch you write it." Oh, oh, god dang. This is
Oh,
where I had to like close the book and like pace for a second because I needed to
had to
prepare myself for
cool your
the
jets,
scene.
huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I
like it.
swear Jesse was about to have to turn the hose on me over her
I love
sweat and
it.
just rereading
I
it.
love it. Okay.
What is your next one?
So this is my last quote, my last highlight moment. And this isn't as funny. It's actually more, I felt like this is something well articulated or something that I agree with. But, you have been known to give me a hard time. I think you even made a comment, like, in a previous episode about what is the obsession about muscled men? Why does the guy always have to be this, like, muscled physique, and all that? And she lays it out really well. She says, something about the feel of heavy muscle really did it for me, and not just because it looked nice, but because of how much effort and intensity it took to create. It spoke of someone with drive and focus, someone willing to put in hard work even on the days they didn't want to. That dedication had the potential to transfer well into a relationship because relationships could be the hardest work of all. And I liked
I
it.
like
I was
it.
like, yeah, go
I
muscles.
like
Go
it.
go team muscles.
I feel like that explains it very well. Even
Yes.
though personally I prefer a big boy, I still see and appreciate the appeal, and I feel like that explains a lot. So, I have one last quote, and it's essentially in the same scene.
Oh, the knife play scene? Imagine that.
I don't I'm gonna read the scene now.
Okay.
So he says, I'm not gonna read it word for word until I get to the part, but I gotta set the scene a little bit. So he says, "Are you good?" And then she says, "Better than good." And it says, "I heard him shift forward and felt his arm slide around my waist before he grabbed the chain linking my handcuffs, and tugged it down, pinning my wrist to the mattress behind me and forcing my spine straight." And then it quotes and says, "Then what the fuck are you sitting still for?" He purred into my ear. "I told you to write it." And her response is, "Hot damn, Dom Josh could get it." And that
Yes.
was my inner dialogue.
Yeah.
But it was also Allie's inner dialogue.
This was a good moment for him. This was a this is what we were here for, Josh.
The Josh dirty talk, A1. I
Yeah.
loved it. I'm here for the dirty talk more than the actual scene itself because
I can see that.
that's my thing in these books is I love the dirty talk.
Mhm.
I turn
Agreed.
into Millie Bobby Brown eating the carrot. The dirtier the better. Like
Oh, that's awesome. Well, are you
that's
ready to
it for
rate
me
this
now.
book?
Yes. Yes. Okay, so what was your overall rating?
So, this is going to sound harsh, okay? But I looked at it as though I was like my rating on Goodreads was 3 stars. And so I felt like the scale equivalent to that, our 10-point scale equivalent to that was a 5 out of
Mhm.
10. I think
Oof.
it it does sound super harsh, but it was it was it was fine. It was okay.
If you looked, if you had gone into the book thinking of it as a novella versus a full-blown book, would the outcome had been different?
Um Maybe
Not
not.
that I'm pressuring you. I'm just
I
curious.
just don't know if it does come across as a novella, but I don't think that was her intention. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
I went into it with that mindset. So I think that's why our ratings might be very different.
yeah. I mean, we talked about a lot of the reasons why, but I will say
Yeah.
content wise, the self apology for a lot of things going on was, I don't know, none of the content went far enough in terms of conflict and suspense,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So, really, it was just none of it went far enough for me. I think that's why I ended up where I was.
I can see that. As an overall score, I gave it an 8 out of 10. Now, thinking back, I might would drop it to more of a 7.5 because you made some very good points throughout the book or throughout this discussion. So I think I'm likely to drop it to a 7.5, but it's still high rating for a book if it was supposed to be a full-blown book versus a novella.
I mean,
I went into it thinking of it as a novella though.
I think that this being like right up your alley and hitting all of your favorite
Yeah.
tropes, I think that matters. And, you know, I'm not mad at it. I definitely don't dislike the book at all. It's just,
Yeah.
um, I will say I gave The Spice an 8 out of 10. I think The Spice could have still gone farther. Um, but it was really well written and I did like The Spice.
So for content, I gave it an 8 out of 10 because I'm keeping the writing completely separate. The content itself, like their storyline together, the way that they talk to each other, the way that the characters act towards each other, and obviously the smut. I'm here for all of that. I liked all of it. Spice, I gave it a 9 out of 10 because is it the best I've ever read? No, but I give it a 9 out of 10 because it, like you said, checked all of my boxes
Mm-hmm.
for
So
sure.
then Romance.
Romance, I gave like a 7 out of 10. It There were some moments where like he really came through. I won't say that she was very romantic, but I feel like he was. Even if you take all of the smut and stalking and all that crap out, he, just by watching her through cameras, was able to learn enough about her that he knew when she needed somebody, and then just showed up multiple times, bringing her snacks, making sure she ate, making sure she got some sleep. Like, and he does this multiple times throughout the book, and no matter what, he's just always there for her and ready to take care of her when nobody has taken care of her since her mother died. So I feel like it was more romantic on his part, which is why it doesn't get a higher score because I don't feel like she was. But I feel like he was romantic.
So it occurred to me that I hadn't really brought this up at any point, but
Okay.
romance wise, I'm at a 4 out of 10. And here's why. It felt very high school romance to me. The fact that they have this whole moment over calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend was cringy.
That did, yeah.
The fact that sh- she says like boyfriend during sex and that's what makes him come, I was like, I felt like the declarations of love for each other, even in their inner dialogue, it wasn't, it didn't, the romance was not romancing for me in this, you know. I was really, the smut carried their relationship for me. The shared fantasy and the humor, witty banter back and forth. I liked all of that. But when it came to like the actual emotional part of it, it
Mm.
didn't really do it for me there.
I mean, this is another one of those to each their own.
Oh, for sure.
Like, what everyone perceives will be different, which is why I like that I read a lot more dark romance, you read a lot more romanticy. So for things like this, like my spice ratings are going to be different on a romanticy, and your romance rating will be different on a dark romance
Yeah.
because we have two very different definitions as to
Although,
what that means.
I will say this, you have introduced me to a few books that are much darker that I would rate much higher.
Yeah,
So I think for me, the reason this one is lower is just because if we're going to do it, let's go all the way. Let's go Lords. Let's go Haunting Adeline.
yeah,
Let's go like hard in the paint. And to me, this just didn't, you know what I mean? Um,
yeah,
but to your point, yeah, we do have like different things that we seek out
yeah.
for sure.
Which is good. It gives variety during these ratings for anybody watching. So what did you give it for writing?
So, writing, I said 6 out of 10. I felt like there was some fade to blacks that we didn't that some holes in action, some action that needed to be played out. I think that there was not there was some good witty banter, some good humor, but there was also a lot of other areas that weren't on that level. I would say the
Yeah,
best written scenes are the smut when it comes to the actual writing.
yeah,
Um, and I feel like writing wise, this was an early edit. I feel like if an editor needed to come back and pull
There could have been another
more,
handoff.
yeah, I think.
I agree with pretty much all of that. I gave it a 7 out of 10 for all of the same reasons, but the only reason mine is a point higher is because I did like all of the dialogue. I mean, every time they spoke, I it was either funny or I mean, it invoked real feelings and emotions and reactions from me. I felt like the smut scenes were really well written. There were a few other things that I felt like were well written, like them having a conversation about her mother and the accident. There's scenes throughout, but I mean, like you said, it's just overall the plot and there's no conflict. There's nothing to really drive the story forward.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of fade to blacks where there was so much potential to create some kind of strife. So not great.
So I'm going to confess something here. Something that this, the portions of it that I struggled to sit and read this on the Kindle. And it's one of the
Yeah.
reasons I switched to the audiobook. It was not enough to keep me engrossed. And I did this thing that I do sometimes on the audiobook. I actually listened to it on like 1.75 speed because I needed it to like go faster.
Oh, Tara.
Like I needed things to happen more quickly and not in a I need to know what happens next sort of way, in a like, okay,
Can we just get
let's
to the smut?
yeah, like get to the smut or get to some action. Like I need this to go faster.
I can't say that I had that reaction. Do I think it's the best thing I've ever read? No. But I've also been known to just dive into novellas or easy smut reads that you really don't need to think anything about. You just get through it and read it. Books that aren't going to give you a book hangover the next day.
So let me ask you
So
this.
I think that's why my rating is a little different.
What makes you call it a novella? Because, and the reason I bring that up is that this is no different in length than some of the other books that we would not consider a novella.
I consider something a novella when it's purely, which I know this probably is not an actual definition for a novella, but throughout the ones that I've read, I've noticed a pattern, which is that they focus mostly on the character versus actually having any plot to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only is it character driven, but it's like if you're watching a movie, you're just Blair Witch Project. You're just following this character around and viewing things around them that
Mm-hmm.
happen. And that's essentially what this was. We're just following the characters. We're not actually following a plot. We're not seeing the evil man behind the curtain. We're not seeing all these actiony things happen. It's just
Yeah.
the character and their development together.
I think
And
if
sometimes I just prefer that.
absolutely, and I think this has been marketed on Book Talk as
Yeah.
up there with a lot of the other things we've read. So I think that's why I didn't look at it that way. But you having said that in this conversation, it definitely reads that way, I would say.
Yeah.
I was just curious if you had seen it referenced as that or if that was just kind of how you read it.
No, that's just kind of how I went into it even before I started reading it.
Mm-hmm.
I just reading the summary was enough for me to feel that way about
To
it.
feel that way.
I pretty much really like the book purely because I mean it's a fantasy that any girl on Mask Talk has. Like you're reading about the Mask Talk guy
It's
coming into your
basically
home.
the novel version of a mask talk thirst trap.
Video. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's essentially what it is. I mean, it's purely just guilty pleasure quick read. It's not we're going to dive into this whole world that they're created. I don't even think we get to know what town they're in, what big city that they're living in. I mean, you assume it's something like Chicago or New York, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think it's ever mentioned. There's no actual building of a world or an environment that they're in or anything.
That's
It's
true.
just them. Which is why I rate the characters so high because I give them a 9 out of 10 because we're just following the two characters. It's all about them and they're well written.
I gave the characters 7 out of 10. I like the characters. I think Allie and Josh are likable and funny and all of that. I still, their self realizations that they have, like him realizing he's not like his dad, her kind of processing that she's escaping into work and all that.
Mhm.
That's what I liked about it. I think
Yeah.
I don't know, deeper, more. I don't know. I, I there was I think it, and this goes back to, I think there was just some parts of it that seemed shallow.
Yeah.
It could have been more complex or more unclear, and then we realize it just more. But I don't. There were none of the characters that I thought, oh, this is unbelievable or this is badly written character or anything like that.
Yeah. So, final thoughts. I like the book. I would recommend the book. Do I think it's a reread? No.
Just the
Do I
night
feel like
scene.
it had more? I feel like it, yeah. That one's getting printed out and like put as my wallpaper. That's what's going to happen. Jesse's going to come home and there's just going to be a murder board one day.
Perfect. I
But I I do think that there was a lot more potential for this book to have been really great. It probably could have been not just a viral book, but a top-selling book.
mm-hmm.
Like it says USA Today's bestseller. I think that's because of how viral it was. I think it's a little overhyped. But I would still recommend you read it because it got some good smut scenes.
So if I highly would recommend this book for somebody that's looking for something different, that maybe is a more generic fantasy or generic smut reader, or that has never tried any dark romance at all. I would 100% recommend this and say, read it. If you like this, let me know. I have more recommendations for you.
Yeah. If you don't like it, maybe you should stick to your rom-coms and
Yeah.
romanticities.
Yeah, don't proceed any farther down this path.
Yeah. Stop here.
Yeah. Do not pass
Yeah.
go. Do
I
not collect $200.
yeah, exactly. Our ratings may be different, but at least we're on the same page.
For sure.
But that is a wrap for this episode. As always, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed our take on this oh so steamy read. And we will see y'all next week on A Novel Affair.
And we will be discussing Bride by Allie Hazelwood. So stay tuned for that.
So don't forget to head over to our podcast to hear our uncensored, in depth conversation about this spicy book and many others. You can find that link in the comments.
Be sure to like and follow us on social media and hit that subscribe button before you go. We'll see y'all soon.